when someone leaves you, it becomes a different story. I'm not saying that nothing shall arise anymore, that no old beliefs will be uprooted or shown to your consciousness. But more and more, you'll start to care less and less. Because you'll be love more and more. And you'll be abundance, knowingness, more and more. And you'll be free will, choice, knowingness, more and more. And you want to honor the other person's free will because you know that that is you in another form expressing itself in the most conducive way that it can. And if it is guided to move somewhere else, then you wish to honor that. That is integrity, that is purity, that is balance in relationship. That means that if they wish to explore time with someone else, if you wish to be pure with your own alignment, with your own connection, if you wish to ascend to greater heights of purity, then you, I'm not saying nothing comes up, I'm saying that ultimately what you choose will be to offer that person its own freedom, knowing that they never ever gave it up to you anyway. It never belonged to you. That person does not belong to you. Hence there is no relationship, not really. There are no relationships. It's a fiction. What there is a free universe of beings moving in and out of each other's resonances all the time. If you get out of the paradigm that's created by humanity, you'll be so much more free. You'll explore time with many more people in whatever way. It doesn't have to be sexually, it doesn't have to be in partnership form, but you'll open your world to so much more richness and connection. Of course, maintaining integrity towards whatever agreements you have set up. That does not mean you stay in the agreements you've set up. It means that if there is a change of heart, you communicate that you wish for a change in agreement. Does that make sense? That means that if you have an agreement in place, you don't just move away and go pell-mell, do whatever the hell you want. Yes, ultimately that is a given. Yes, ultimately that is your privilege. But you'll feel much better on that journey, I guarantee you, if you address whatever agreements you feel energetically might be, even if it's just assumed and never spoken, might be there, tight to you. Not really, but tight to you by agreement. If you simply address that using communication, very clearly stating your new desire, your new change of heart, then anything is possible. And you can allow yourself and them to be free in their resonance exploration. So there is no relationship. Get over this idea that there is a relationship, that there is you and me against the world. I mean, it's an amazing energy. It's an amazing energy when it's there. But when it's there, ideally, it's allowed to be there out of a pure free will, not out of agreement. It's even more amazing if both beings just simply want to be in tune for that moment without making any promise per se regarding the future. It's fine if they do. But then again, this is just my personal recommendation, obviously do with it what you want. But my personal recommendation that if you do make some kind of agreement for the future, let it include the idea of being able to move apart from each other when your highest resonance tells you to. Okay? So you need to make all the agreements you want, but include the agreement to your own highest resonance, otherwise you're not being in integrity with the universe. If you're not in integrity with other beings, meaning you don't allow them to explore their free will, and you're not listening, or you're not listening to your own resonance, either way, you're not being in integrity with the universe, and you're not setting yourself up for expansion, for joy, for bliss, for abundance, for manifestation in the way that you desire to manifest your consciousness. Does that make sense all so far? Cool. So what I encourage you to do, just to sort of summarize it, is to become as free within yourself as you can. To love yourself as much as you can, to find abundance within your consciousness as much as you can. And I guarantee you, what seems daunting to you now will be the most liberating choice at some point, and effortless. I remember, I can share it in a certain way, close enough. So, like I said, my biggest fear always was that my partner would either leave me or would die or would disappear or cheat on me or anything like that. Right? So the one that I most projected that upon probably was my wife at the time. Well, it's not entirely true, but I projected it onto everyone before her too. And I had gained some level of maturity when I got together with who would later become my wife. So anyway, I was still, when in the period of being with her, especially before our marriage, but also after to an extent, there was still this thing, like I never really explored what it would mean for me to give her away to someone else, for example, to give her that freedom, right? So at some point we had a conversation. Like this was my most devastating fear. But simply by becoming more empowered within myself, by starting to realize more and more how creation works and how infinitely abundant I am, what used to be my worst fear, I couldn't even think about it. I didn't want to dialogue about it. It was all or nothing. Like either you want this or not. I'm not going to go there. Open relationships of any kind, I'm not going to go there. It freaks me out. So it's dirty, it's nasty, it's bad, it's all these ideas about it. Very strong insistence on it. So I went from that to not really ever needing to discuss it or like talk about it until at some point a conversation came up. And that was maybe 2 years later or something like that, 2-3 years into getting together. And I remember just being at this point where, for the first time really, in those 2 or 3 years, it had become a relevant point, simply because we discussed the idea of it. And I remember I was standing in the apartment, and I checked in with myself, hey, this is interesting. This is the first time this has come up in such a while. And so 2 years ago would have been, or 3 years before then, it would have been absolutely devastating to me, couldn't talk about it. And now I noticed that effortlessly, without me working on the idea of it per se, without me trying out open relationships per se, simply having that conversation, I realized that I got to such a point of clarity and vibrational alignment with myself that I realized that I would not ever, if she wanted to make that choice, I would not ever want her to not act on that resonance. If there was someone that she found in her life that would string a certain tune within her being and excite her, that would be a reflection of her soul, of her spirit, then I could suddenly very clearly see, hey, wait a second, it doesn't matter that we're married. Who am I? I'm a being, you're a being. We're creation, we're the universe. We're not married, we're not in a relationship. You are a being, I am a being, you are the universe, I am the universe, exploring itself. And there's infinite options available. If your resonance, if your guidance shows you that there's a genuine connection that you have with someone else, then who am I to want to deprive you of that? So very clearly I could see that. And suddenly it became the most liberating, exciting choice to say, if that is ever something you would want, you're absolutely free to explore that to whatever extent you want to explore that. And so without really working on the idea of it, after simply having worked on myself continuously, as I always do, for those 2 or 3 years, I came to a very effortless point where my greatest fear, I couldn't even access it, had become this easy dialogue where I could give my wife away to whomsoever if that was relevant for her. And it actually felt amazing. It felt so liberating. It felt so empowering to myself. So what I'm saying is that, not that you have to do this or anything, I'm just saying that as you keep working on yourself, you'll naturally, even unnoticeably so, gain more and more and more paradigm shifts, more and more freedom, more and more expansion, and all these lack ideas will start to dissolve, whether you're with a partner exploring this or without a partner. And at some point, you'll just start to reach a new plateau, and you start to notice that. Suddenly you look completely, your outlook on life is completely different, and you can leave other people be in their freedom much more, and you can leave yourself be in your freedom much more, and communication becomes much clearer. So, in other words, work on your own empowerment is the best tip I have for the purity and the truthfulness and the intimacy of connecting with others. If you want that true intimacy with others, then that can only happen if the other person is completely free in your eyes. And ideally, they see you as completely free. Now, if that energy is there, then there can be this bridge, this tunnel, this portal can be opened up between these two beings that is massively powerful, because it's literally the universe recognizing itself in another. That's when these quote-unquote higher energy centers start to become active in that relationship. When both are resonating at that same level, are able to compute with the fact that they are infinite worth, and that the other person is infinite worth, and that they're all independent, interconnected but independent, complete universes in and of themselves. Then you can start to relate from a truly, quote-unquote, spiritual level of interaction, of intimacy, and points of view. If that is a match, if that is reciprocated both ways, you'll have the most amazing experience humanly possible. Possibly. Of course, that with your own portal is always the absolute, is always the truth. But to be able to then share that full on with another, and it is possible. It is rare, but it is possible. I'm not creating this dangling carrot in front of your eyes that you should start searching for. Oh, I hope I meet that soulmate one day. Because here's the thing, you cannot meet your soulmate or twin flame, or just to sort of get into your question a little bit, about that quote-unquote special soul-to-soul connection that some souls have that you don't have as much with other souls, which to an extent is a relevant truth in my experience, purely because of resonance. Ultimately, all is your own soul, and you can see everything as your twin flame. Nevertheless, on a very practical, experiential, individual level, it is my experience that with some souls there is a much higher fine-tuned vibrational alignment than with other souls. And that can be experienced as soulmates, or even what they would call a twin flame connection, where everything is reciprocated, where it just feels like you're one being in two bodies, basically. All these experiences are possible. Anyway, in order for any of that to enter your realm of relationship, to enter your experience of relationship, you have to have opened that portal to infinite worth yourself. So, if you wish to attract any type of true relationship, or the relationship that you have, you wish to transform it to become this true portal, then you, and in a sense the other being, of course it's up to their free will, but you most of all need to open up. I keep calling it a portal, so that's how you can see it, like a gateway, like a wormhole, like a black hole opening up in the center of your head, allowing in a sense, that universal infinite knowledge that I am infinite worth. It's the gateway to everything. If you can know that you're infinite worth, it's the gateway to everything, and especially when it comes to relationship, whether it's friends, whether it's teammates, whether it's crewmates, whether it's partnerships, whether it's your twin flame, whether it's a whole group of people, whether it's a threesome, doesn't matter. That clarity, that portal to knowing, it opens up as soon as you know that you are a creature of infinite worth, infinite possibility, infinite abundance, infinite love. So you have to know that within yourself. Somehow you have to dig real deep and find that source of infinite well-being. And if you can find that, relationships will never be the same. Again, I'm not saying that nothing will ever come up for you in terms of old sort of human perspectives, and that you can enter a period of whatever, a couple of days, couple of weeks of churning through that when something is triggered in the outside. But you'll have the clarity that you need to move through that as gracefully as possible, given those things that arise so powerfully from the human mind, from the unconscious, from believing in lack. And then ultimately, with more and more and more and more practice, then that period of process becomes shorter and shorter and shorter, to a point where in most situations, speaking from my own experience, if something drops away, you can instantly recognize, even before it happens, that that is okay, more than okay, that that opens the gateway to something else, that only means infinite abundance. It does not imply lack. That becomes more and more immediate in more and more situations. So that will, in a sense, be the proof, the evidence, the hallmark of your sense of freedom, your sense of infinite worth. If there's still a lot of attachments to the outside, to other people, then it is simply a sign that you've not explored. You've not looked up. You've not realized that you are God. You've not realized that you are infinite worth, that you are endless abundance, that you are a creature of infinite possibilities. As soon as you know that, your, in a sense, chakras or your energy system will open up. I usually don't talk about that, but it's slightly more relevant when it comes to relationship in my experience. Your system will open up, your energy centers will open up and start to balance themselves, all because you have the knowledge right here that you are infinite worth. Infinite unity, infinite worth. Everything is contained inside of you. Everything opens up, and then you can give that energy to whatever extent it wants to be received or reciprocated. But at least you can give it to yourself. At least you have that portal wide open. But that portal can start to actually create a duplicate and then also phase, form a cross in a sense. First it's opened up to yourself, to the heavens, but then it can also start to be projected onto other people in other beings. And then again, it depends on the reciprocation of it too. Don't expect a full-on experience if that's not completely both of yours experience. There has to be the attunement. But at the very least, you can give this to yourself. It's an infinite gift. It's an endless gift. And it means that you won't need anyone anymore. Not even your twin flame. Not even your soul mate. My wife, in a sense, was my twin flame. At some point, we got divorced because our paths took separate ways, at least for a while. Maybe not forever, but at least for a while. It was obvious that had to move apart. So that has to be honored too. But you can't do that. Well, you can. You have to at some point. But you can't really go through that experience gracefully or joyfully if you don't know that you're infinite abundance and infinite worth. So empower yourself with the knowledge, I am infinite worth. And when you do, you'll be a free agent once again, because that's what you've always already been. And then you can explore relating. You can explore relationship with beings of all kinds. That can look in whatever way resonates for you. Doesn't have to look in any particular way.